Hello there, and welcome to Tales of the Force, a place for fans to tell their Star Wars stories. Joining me today is Denise, known as Mandalorian Momma. She is a Mandalorian at heart, mom, and Star Wars fanatic. She has been cosplaying with the Star Wars groups since 2017, and in 2022 launched Sisterhood of the Travelin Bantha Podcast with one of her best friends, Rexy, to bring more women representation to Star Wars. Her favorite character is Qi'ra, and she is obsessed with the prequel era of Star Wars. Don't forget, this is Denise's personal story. It is not my place on the show to dismiss, diminish, judge, or have an opinion on her story. Any views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are her own. Any comments on this episode are expected to be respectful. General reminder: while Star Wars is a story that deals with hopeful themes, it also touches on things like war, death, loss, slavery and oppression, trauma, mental health issues, personal injury, abandonment, pregnancy, and childbirth. You are advised to refrain from watching or listening to the YouTube channel or podcast if you are likely to be adversely impacted or offended by any of these topics. As always, please take care of yourself and reach out to someone you trust if needed. Well, hey Denise, how are you?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. It's been a week, but a good week, and I'm so excited to get to talk to you about your Star Wars journey and the things that you love about this whole franchise. So I'm really excited.
Same here. It's a great way to end the week talking Star
Right?
Wars.
Star Wars is always a good thing, I feel like. At least I do. So how did you get into this whole fandom of Star Wars? Like what got you into it? What's your story in Star Wars, like getting into everything?
Okay. So I have essentially been watching Star Wars from the time I was born, I guess you would say. My dad was a very, very big sci-fi nerd. Like he will tell everybody, "I saw the original Star Wars 12 times in the movie theater." And he's like, it's his bragging right. And
I love
yes,
it.
have it. And so from the time I was born, like we'd always watch Star Wars. And
Yeah.
when I was a child, my mom passed away. And
Okay.
growing up, that's how we bonded. We watched Star Wars together. We had extra time, we watched Star Wars together. We had all the different kinds of Star Wars games. My very first convention was Celebration 4 in LA with my dad
That's awesome.
doing Star Wars. Like it's always been our thing. He took me and my sister to go see the prequels when I was, oh gosh, that was 99. So a while ago. I was like 12, no, I was eighth grade. Yeah. And so we did all that. Growing up, going to Disneyland, Star Tours was always like the first ride we did. And so it's just has been embedded in my life from the beginning.
Hmm.
And because of that and having Star Wars associated with family, it just, I view Star Wars as family.
Right.
Moving across country, I made new family in Oklahoma from California, and it was all Star Wars people. Like are, they were the ones that made me feel welcome. They made me feel at home, and it just, it's family. Star Wars equals family.
It really does. Oh my gosh, it does. It's so cool because almost everybody I've talked to has that similar, either it is a family member or it's friends, and
Mm-hmm.
which is that found family aspect. And so it's been
Mm-hmm.
so neat to see that similarity across people's stories because it's the same for me too. My parents saw it when they were in their 20s. And so I just grew up with Star Wars, and
Yeah.
it wasn't something that really mattered that I liked until I got older. And then that's when it was like, oh, you're a girl and you like Star Wars, like it
Right.
wasn't an issue when I was younger.
Totally get that. I did have my like phase in high school where I wasn't as much wearing
Same.
literally Star Wars on my sleeve. Um,
Yes.
it wasn't until I got into college and moved out and embraced it more. At that time, I was also working at Disneyland, and I was kind of getting into my own and
Yeah.
found other Star Wars fans and started being like, hey, maybe I'll start playing games or maybe I'll start doing more. But no, I totally get it. There was a
Yeah.
period where
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like,
not
I
a
don't know,
fan,
like,
but
yeah, exactly. Like, it's like it was still there. I still loved it. I just wasn't as vocal or made it a huge part of my life because I don't know, I didn't want to add anything else that made me different, Like,
I
it
I
just was a
also
thing.
think I also think that, so I'm a little bit older. I'll be 40 next year. I doesn't bother me, whatever. But in the early 2000s, like you didn't really wear that like nerd badge. You kind of just kept it in the back and not really paraded around for everybody to see. But it's refreshing now that it's
Yeah.
it's come out like not it's come out so much, sorry, my words are all mumbled, but now people can be who they are and not
Yeah.
have to worry about it. And it's so much more accepting.
Yes. I love seeing, I say kids, they're not kids, they're all adults, but different people that are cosplayers and
Hmm.
things that I never would have done at that age, 20, 25, 18. And
Yeah.
it's so inspiring and gives me so much hope seeing another generation, even if it's not like as young as like kids, but to see the generation behind me
Yeah.
embracing it so much with so much love. It's like, oh no, Star Wars is alive and well. Like these people are rocking it. And I
100%.
almost feel like I'm catching up to now the younger generation.
I no, I can see that because I feel like I'm not as tech savvy. So I'm like, oh, I can actually use social media platforms to talk about Star Wars in multiple different ways. Okay, like let me try to figure this out. I don't It took me a while to get there, but I think I
Yeah.
might have it now. I don't know, but yeah.
I feel yeah. It's interesting and I don't know, it's kind of fun because I don't know, you might feel the same way too, but it kind of makes you feel a little bit like some of the characters that you looked up that then were able to mentor other characters. And I feel like it's so neat to be at the age that I am and getting to know some of the younger fans and being like, hey, you're not alone. You've got this. Like you're creative, you're doing a great job. And to give that encouragement and hope that I didn't have necessarily in certain areas. And it's just been such a healing process, honestly.
And it's so nice because Star Wars is not just an age specific thing, like you're saying. It's a multi-generational fandom. And like one thing I like to talk about is my dad, he watched the originals in the movie theater. I watched the prequels in the movie theater. I have a 12-year-old son who saw the sequels in the movie theater. And so I will say Star Wars or Disney now, they do a great job at bridging the gaps between the different generations by creating these like monumental moments for people to come together to enjoy it,
Right.
which is
Yeah, definitely. And
so great.
there's so many different things for so many different people. And I love that that's an option. And I think, like what you're saying, that point is sometimes missed when people might not resonate with some of the newer stuff. And it's like, well, it is
Mhm.
kind of geared to a younger audience. Like it might resonate with them a little bit more. I mean, it resonated with
Yeah.
me, but it doesn't always resonate with everybody. And so it's like, let them have their trilogy, and if
Well,
you
you're
don't
not
like it, you don't
wrong.
like it. It's fine. And if you like, some people still don't like the prequels, and that's fine too. It's just, I know it makes me sad. I've always loved them, but there are people that don't like them, and I
Yeah.
get their critiques and I get their problems with it, but it doesn't change it for me. And I think that's such a cool place to be, where it's like, all right, that's fine, but I still like it, and to be confident in that. And I did not have that when I was younger.
I also think so. Growing up in the prequel era, like that's my era, and I remember a lot of people spewed a lot of hate towards the movies, kind of like how they're doing now with the sequels. Um, but there's going to be a time, give it like 15, 20,
Yep.
25 years. It's going to, there, I think the love is going to come full circle, like the
Oh
love has
yeah.
come full circle for the prequels. Just kind of as this like kid generation that like my son is in, as they grow up, they're going to be like, hey, yeah, these are awesome. I'm like, they're not my favorites, but they're like, I'm glad you enjoy them, and I want you
Right.
to be able to embrace it like I have embraced my prequels that literally had the same thing happen to them as now. So yeah,
Yes. So
they'll
what
get their
was it?
time.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think it will come full circle 100%. And so I don't know. I'm just trying to learn from the past, and I don't want to be like the older person that was hating on kids that liked something, because I definitely saw
Yeah.
that, and it's so cool to watch kids discover Star Wars for the first time. And I am not a mom. I have 4 children, and that's all that I have, but it is fun to see my friends' kids or nieces and nephews or different
Mm-hmm.
things like that experience for the first time. But how is it, you as a mom, to see your kids experience Star Wars?
So unlike a lot of people, I never really forced Star Wars onto my son. I like everybody's like, oh, so your kid watches Star Wars with you all the time? No, he's his own person. I like to let him um, find his own interests. We do watch Star Wars together. That like it's always been our thing. Whenever a new thing comes out, we'll watch it together, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I liked it. No, I didn't," and that's okay. But the thing that I loved about Star Wars with being a mom and having a son is I'm very involved with the costuming groups. So the
Mm-hmm.
501st, the Rebel Legion, the Mandalorians. Um, I had taken him to a lot of the community charity events with me. And so it has given me a way to bond with my son and show him that we can find things that we love and give back to the community with it. So
Yeah.
he's gone to, um, what was it called? It was some gaming event at a children's hospital, and he went and he played the video games with the kids while I was in my Mando costume, and he got to see that, hey, I do have a very fortunate lifestyle, but I can give back as well.
Yeah.
And so he likes to, he'll promote the clubs when we're at an event and be like, hey, let's raise money. And like, it's just fun to see him at a young age embrace that community um, charity aspect of it. And
Yeah,
so that's been my
definitely.
favorite part.
That's awesome. Is it like, does he think it's cool that you do that? Like, I know like kids go through different phases of thinking their parents are cool or what they do is cool, but which one is
Um,
he in right now?
right now is Mom's So Embarrassing, but he's in middle school. When he was in elementary school, he'd be like, my mom is head of the Mandalorians in Oklahoma.
Oh
And
my gosh.
he's like, yeah, her name is Linda, and you got to make sure you get it right. And she is the pink and purple and blue Mando. And I was like, I got my little hype man. It's great. Like, but
I
now he's
love
just
it.
like, ugh. He doesn't go to as many events with me now just because he's like, oh my gosh, mom, you're so embarrassing. You dress up in Star Wars costumes. Like, yeah, that's all right.
It'll probably come back around. Let's
I'm
give him
sure it
time.
will.
One of these days, he'll be like, Mom, can you help me make a costume? And you're gonna be like, yes.
Let's do it.
Right. If that's what he's into, I
It's,
mean, but you never know. You never know
you just don't.
what it'll be like or what he'll be into if he wants to do it with you. But I'm sure those moments are really sweet when he does like still come or watch things with you
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So that's really cool. What was it like getting into cosplaying and making your first costume and everything that goes into that?
So I want to share the story. So I didn't really. Okay, so my first costume was for Celebration 4. I made a Padme costume.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I ever really did a costume. And it wasn't until I love sharing the story. I moved to Oklahoma and I blame I always tell the owner of the company I work for, I'm like, this is all your fault. I'm like, you tease me, but it's your fault. We went to a baseball game and it just happened to be Star Wars night.
Okay.
And I saw um, a woman dressed up as a Mandalorian. And I was like, what? You can be a female Mandalorian and whatever colors you want? Because I always thought it had to be Boba Fett or Jango Fett because we didn't really see any like other Mandalorians. So I was just like,
Right.
this is a thing.
This
And so
exists.
and my coworkers were like, "Oh my gosh, she is gone." And like I didn't go back to like the sitting down with my company because I was like, I need to know the information. And I'm like, we are going to be friends on Facebook. I need to know how to do this. And from the time that happened, I had an approved costume for my Mando within like 9 months. Like
That's amazing.
I dove into it. And, but like seeing that and specifically like a female Mando and hers was a dark purple, I was like, I want to do this, but I want to show little girls that they can be awesome just like the boys wearing armor. So I was like, I'm going to be the brightest color Mando I could think of. And so that's kind of what got me into costuming. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears making the costume, like literal blood and crying, but we got there. And I've been doing it since 2017 now, I think.
That's
It's a lot
incredible.
of
I
fun.
mean, oh my gosh. I have not done anything to that level as far as like costumes or things like that, but I do understand the amount of blood, sweat, tears, and money that goes into it and time.
Oh, the money, money. I'm like building a whole nother set and like I keep track of everything that I buy and build. And I'm just like, oh, this one's already costing 2 to 3 times as much as my other one. And I'm like, I'll just buy it in pieces because I don't want it all to hit my bank account at one time. But it's
It's
an
a
investment.
lot. Yeah.
That's how I see
Yeah.
it.
But I mean, you're making so many people happy and yourself happy. That's
And that's
priceless, right?
it is priceless. And that's what I tell my husband. I'm like, my first costume, I'm still wearing it since 2017. That's a good amount of time. Just do
Yeah.
this next one. So yeah, luckily he's super supportive and he's like, do whatever you want to do to make you happy. So
That's awesome. Mine is too. And that's why I'm here having a podcast. And, I'm sure he's doing his own thing right now, having fun.
I think he's hanging out with the kids, playing video games. That's their thing.
Yeah, I think mine is probably playing video games too. But you play games too, right?
Yes, have played quite a few video games over the years from Force Unleashed. I actually had a Junior Eclipse costume from that video game series. I've played the Battlefront games. I've done the Lego games. Um, this is an oldie but a goodie. I used to play Star Wars Galaxy, which was an online multiplayer platform. So kind of like Star Wars Knights Republic, but like
Uh-huh.
older. So kind
Yeah.
of like that in the early 2000s. And then I played Star Wars Knight Republic, or is that what it's called? It's been a hot minute since I played
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've played a lot. I've played quite a bit. I even played WoW for a little while, but that's like a whole nother like
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother
fandom.
thing.
Yeah.
I have not ever been like a huge, like, I love video games, but I've never, I guess, like, had my own,
Hmm.
like, console or even, like, really computer that could do that. So I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that I need to catch up on and play all the different
It
games and
it can
things.
be addicting. It can take a lot of time. I don't play as much games now. I'll probably play the Outlaw game just because I'm
Yeah,
super excited for a female-led character that's not
right.
a Jedi or a Sith or the Empire or the Rebellion. Like it's a smuggler, and I love like
Yeah.
space pirates. So I think
And
that
it's
one
an
will be a
open
lot of
world
fun.
game, which is really
Hmm.
fascinating that Star Wars is doing. So,
Yeah, get to
have you
choose your own
pre-ordered it
missions.
already?
Have not. Um, I go back and forth on it just because a lot of games lately have had like a lot of issues on the initial drop. So I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe I'll just wait a week or two to see how the gameplay really is because it's a lot of money to invest.
Yeah, it
And
is. It is. It's like games are expensive and it's like a
mhm,
commitment too because if you buy it, you don't want it just like if you buy a bunch of books or different things, like you don't want it just sitting there, like you want to
yeah,
read them and
exactly.
or play the game. So I was definitely behind on Star Wars games. I mean, I remember all my friends. So growing up, most of my closer friends were boys, like when I was a
Hmm.
little girl, and they all had like Nintendo 64s. And so I grew up playing all of those games on my
Yeah,
friends' consoles. And so I remember the Phantom Menace game, like the
yep.
episode 1 game, and I played that a lot, and, like, the Pod Racer game that they had
I've
on
played
it
the pod
too.
racing game. Yep.
Yeah, and so, like, I remember playing those, um, but, like, I didn't really get to play, like, Knights of the Republic, like, on,
Yeah.
like, an actual system. Like, they have it as a game, like, an app for your phone, and I've done that, like, 5,000,000 times because it's, like, fun. And I know people that play it like as a game hate it on the phone because they're like, oh, this is unplayable. But I'm like, oh, it's fun for me.
But that's the thing is I like to tell people is there's literally something for everybody, and there's so many like media platforms for everything that you can make whatever platform you prefer work for you. So it just same with
Yeah.
story wise, there's literally a story out there for everybody. So if you like the old Republic or if you like current like um Empire era, like there's literally something for you
Yeah.
to embrace.
There's so many aspects of Star Wars just in general, not just like stories and movies, but there's action figures and there's toys and there's books and there's comics and there's games. And I mean, it's like so hard to do all of it. And that's why it blows my mind when people are as big of a fan as I am in multiple fandoms. I'm like, how do you do this?
I don't know how people can do it. Like it is, I used to like follow a lot of Marvel stuff, but I was eventually like, I don't have the time. Like I just need
Yes,
to hyper focus in on my Star Wars because
same.
I do work full time. I run a podcast. I have a kid. Like I do community service stuff, like charity groups, like almost every other weekend. Like I don't have the time to just
Hmm.
keep up with everything that I used to like 10 years ago. It just
It's
kudos to those who
impossible.
can.
Yeah.
But for me, I cannot do it.
Yeah,
I would
same.
burn out really quickly.
I feel you 100%. I'm like, Star Wars is my thing. I'm sticking with it. Like, I'll watch other movies and I'll enjoy them, but I don't get as deep involved with
Yeah.
the others as much as this because I don't have the mental capacity either. I feel you 100%. So,
But like even within Star Wars, there's so much you can learn about Star Wars. There's the
yeah.
books. You have the current canon, which is the High Republic, or you can do the like Skywalker Saga era. You got the comic books, which are also the High Republic current saga era. So, like, there's just so
There's so
much
much.
out there, and I just started getting into the books like crazy, and I'm just like, I don't have enough time. I need to find the audiobooks so I can try to multitask
I've
everything.
had
And
to do that. I've had to pick like some of them and be like, okay, I'm going to do the audiobook of this book because
yeah.
I want to read them all. And it's like such a habit that I've gotten out of reading. Like when I was a kid, I read all the time. Like I
Mhm.
probably read a different book every few days or every week, depending on how big it was. I read all the time. And I don't know, like I probably scroll too much on social
Oh,
media.
same.
And like I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have been reading a book, but here I am doom scrolling and it's not even doing anything really productive. And so that's something that I'm trying, and it's like I want to be more intentional with my time just
Yeah,
in general. And I want to be more intentional with my time on social media because I think also when I'm more intentional with that, it's also better. Like when
I
I'm
agree.
thinking about it more and I'm limiting my time on it and I'm being specific, I feel like what I put on it is also better things and or
Hmm.
who I'm interacting with on there is better. It's the people that I want to talk to. It's the people that make me happy and bring me joy. It's not me seeing things that I'm like, oh, that's depressing. But I saw it because I'm just doom scrolling, you
No,
know?
I totally get it because I feel like when I specifically like interact with certain people, like the whole algorithm, like I am noticing like certain like Star Wars content creators or shows or artwork more tailored now just because I'm not just sitting there like you said scrolling. Um, but yeah, I feel that after
It's
a long day,
hard.
um, but I have found myself with listening to audiobooks, like I'm not doing that as much because I can't do both at the same time. So I'm like, I'm just gonna sit back and listen to a book and just chill, like after a long day of work.
I've had a lot of fun listening to the Star Wars audiobooks because they put so much into it. They put all the little sound effects and the music and
It's
I
definitely a
really have
production.
enjoyed them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun, but yeah, I have several on my list that I need to read and I have a bookshelf full of Star Wars books that I need to read. So,
I have this habit of I just automatically buy the book when it comes out, knowing I will get there eventually.
exactly.
Um, so I have two bookshelves, and then I'm just like, I don't know which one to read, but I'm trying to catch up on the High Republic is like it's my entire Star Wars personality right now because
I
I
love
want to
it.
know what's going on, especially with the Acolyte show coming out, and I am one of those like I need to research and I need to know what's going on. And like so my friend Rexy, anytime we talk about something, I'm like, oh, let me search that up and I'll give them all the facts. And they're like, Denise, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't help it. I need to know everything. Like I need to
I'm
know
the same
why.
way.
And
Oh, I
so
feel
yeah.
that. I feel that on a deep level. It's my hyper focus game is so good when it's on things like this, but then when I just need to do the laundry, my brain's like, nope.
So because it's not interesting like Star
Yeah,
Wars
I
and
know.
finding out this like background character and what that game is called in the background that they're playing. Like
Exactly.
that's more interesting.
It is. It really is. Yeah, it is. Do you find it like satisfying building a costume too? Like that you can go into so much detail and focus on that?
So yes and no. Like I have not built a costume probably since 2019. Um, I I've had several. So I've had like my Jedi, I've had my Juno Eclipse, but I I love wearing my Mando. I don't really wear any other costume outside my Mandalorian.
Yeah,
Um, and I not only it's because I have such this like connection with this character that
I
I've
love it.
created. The like it has its own name. My Mando's name is Linda, which is named after my mother. My colors I
Oh,
chose specifically to stand out and be this presence for little girls at events. And so as time gone, like I literally, people will be doing stuff. I'm like, oh, I'll see you later. I'm in my costume. I'm going to go find the little girls, give them like trading cards, talk to them, let them try on my helmet.
that's
I'm
amazing.
way more interactive with my Mando than I am any other costume. And I don't know, even when I do events, I'm like, I don't want to just stand around and take pictures. I want to walk around and interact.
I
And
love
so, and
that.
I feel the most freeing and most like myself when I wear this costume because it is that customized and it
Yeah,
is that story I created.
I love it. So tell me a
So that's
little
my
bit
Mando.
about her story.
So my Mando, I took a lot of inspiration from um, kind of my move from California to Oklahoma. My Mandalorian, she is, her name's Linda. She is from Qi'ra, and she was taken in by one of the while out and about doing good old pirate fun stuff. She was brought in as an apprentice, as a family, by this clan, and realized that there could be more to life instead of just roaming around, and use her skill set to do good. And so we got a
That's
ragtag
awesome.
team of pirates.
I love it. And you named her after your mom.
Yes.
That's
Every
so
Star
cool.
Wars costume has been some sort of like small tribute to my mom. Like my 501st number was her birthday, so I could have that piece. And she liked to make
And
costumes, so I was like, this
I
is a way to connect.
oh, I love it. I love it. I bet that just like I don't know. I'm someone that believes that like when someone passes on, like they're somewhere else, they're looking
Yes,
down on you and
I 100.
she loves it. I'm sure.
I think so too. And I've had this conversation with like my aunts talking about it, and they're like, she would have loved to do this with you, and she
Yeah.
would have loved seeing you interacting with children and having an impact and using something nerdy for something good. And so
That's so
I don't know.
awesome. And how does your dad, does he love it too?
He thinks it's the coolest thing ever. So it's so funny because normally a lot of people are like, oh, my kid costumes. And my dad's like, here's the latest picture of my kid as
Oh, I
like
love it.
Amanda. And like his friends, so my dad's like mid 70s. He's older. And his friends are like, your daughter dresses up in costumes? He's like, yeah, it's so cool. And like he'll just tell him everything that we do. And whenever he comes to visit, he's like, do you have an event? Can I go to the event with you? Like I want to be a part of
Oh
this. I'm
my
like,
gosh, I
yeah, come
love
on.
it.
Yeah, oh, he loves it.
Oh, I love that so much. I love it so much. When I started this, I think the people I was the most, not because they weren't supportive, but the people I was the most nervous to like tell and know that they're listening. I love you guys, are my parents. And it wasn't because I didn't think they'd be proud of me or they wouldn't like
No.
it. I don't know why. I remember, and sorry, mom, I haven't told you this, but when she told me she was going to listen to my podcast, I was like talking to one of my friends, I think, and I was like, I'm going to throw up. Why? I was like, my mom's going to listen to my podcast. And it wasn't like a negative thing. I don't know why. It just like, I don't know. Like, I'm one of those people, and you seem like you're one of those people too, because like I have a great relationship with my parents too. Like,
Yeah.
you have had with your mother and you still do, and with your dad. And
Yeah.
it's like I do want them to be proud of me. Like, even in my 30s, I still want that, and I know that if she runs into anybody that likes Star Wars, I'm sure she's like, my daughter has this podcast. You can listen to
My
it.
dad
So
totally does that too. But no, I get that because when I was telling people about it, like it's still, I think that like mindset that I had back from like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, like you didn't really like broadcast it out there that, hey, I'm doing this super nerdy thing and I'm going to be talking every week for like an hour about said nerdy thing. And so like I had this weird like hurdle to like overcome to feel to gain that confidence in me, like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, like let's do it. And so when I told my dad about it, he's like, what? He didn't even know what a podcast was. It's like they did like a radio show when you were a kid and just sat
yeah.
at the radio listening. I'm not really that old, but I get it. So yeah. Yeah, and there's sometimes I'm like, Dad, you don't want to listen to this episode. Let's just skip it to this next
Same.
one. 'Cause,
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it.
yeah.
So what inspired you to do your podcast and tell everybody about it?
So it just happened one night. So I've talked about my Star Wars family in here in Oklahoma. Every
Yeah.
year, 4th of July, we all get together. Halloween, we all get together. New Year's Eve is another day that we all get together. And um, me and my friend Rexy, we were drinking some for New Year's
Yeah.
Eve.
Yeah.
And we were just like, you like talking Star Wars? I like talking Star Wars. We should do a Star Wars podcast. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I've never listened to a podcast in my life. And she's like, okay, let's just do it. And so that's kind of where it started. It took us a little while to kind of get get it started and what we
Yeah.
really wanted to do. And it's evolved over time. We do a lot more live streaming now, but um, it all started on a drunken New Year's Eve of let's just do this. And we do all the costuming together. We're best friends. And so we like to have fun and hang out. Um, yeah, so that's kind of where it started. And my husband was
I
like,
love it.
all right. And my husband like got us microphones and
Uh-huh.
all kinds of things so we could start this. And so, yeah.
I love it. That's amazing. And tell everybody the name because I don't want to say it
Oh,
wrong.
we are Sisterhood of the Travelin Bantha.
Okay, that's what I thought. I
Yes.
see. It's a confidence. I don't even have confidence in myself sometimes to spell things right when I know it's correct. So,
We love creatures in Star Wars and we love banthas. And we wanted to create this sisterhood where we like to focus in on a lot of the different women in Star Wars and that representation that we are definitely getting now since Disney has taken over, because we went from essentially in the originals and the prequels, one main woman, like lead cast member, to now it's almost 50-50 in
yeah,
everything. Still the sequels, it, we had Leia and Rey, but they had a more predominant story, not just like a second tier,
yeah,
because the other ones were
yeah.
Luke and Anakin. Rey was leading up this one. And so we like to just have take a different look at things, being women ourselves, and kind of bringing
Yeah.
in some of that emotional connection and talk about the representation and um, even just the representation for the LGBTQ community with
Mm-hmm.
my co-host. We love
Yeah.
talking about Holdo. She will go on and on and on. She's like, I see myself, and it's
I
important
love
to
it.
see yourself in a character. Like, I, that's just, I don't know. There's
It's so
literally
cool.
somebody.
I was talking to Gabby that was on this podcast, and they were talking about seeing characters that looked like them
Mm-hmm.
on Star Wars and
Yeah.
how they want that for kids
Yep.
growing up now. And I think it's so cool. And I think it's something that it's one of those things where I've said it before, if it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine, but don't take it away from somebody else.
Well,
And people have been learning from people that don't look like them in movies and in shows for such a long time.
yep.
It's not that hard to
it's
do
not a
that.
new it's not a new concept. It's been going movies and shows have been evolving over time, and like it's so great to see the representation, and not just like, especially with women in Star Wars, we had the princess, we had a queen. Yes, in the prequels, she was also now a senator, so she had a little bit more. But Rey, now she is a survivor, and she knows how to take care of herself, knows how to handle herself, like
Yeah.
wants to continuously push herself while reaching out with Kylo and creating that connection. But then we also see women in like The Mandalorian. We have
Mm-hmm.
Kelly. She runs her own like mechanic shop. She knows 5 different languages. She's not dependent on somebody. Like she holds her own. And we're seeing more of these like smaller characters that have stories like this. And it's
Yeah.
so great and it's so refreshing that it's not just some damsel in distress. So we
Yes, and
mm,
I love that even in the originals with Leia. Like
yeah.
she was such a different concept of a princess, and
Mm-hmm.
that might be the 70s influence, you know, for that time, but
Yeah.
it I know it's maybe not revolutionary for 2024,
But
but
it was for that
her
time.
character was for then, and Padme kind of was too. I mean, to have a woman be a senator and be a queen and have such a voice and such a
Because
presence,
she
it
held
was,
her own and she was
yeah,
making waves in the Senate to try to change things, and she was very vocal about it. So yeah, it's really refreshing to see it, and it
to
just
build off of that and to continue with those.
yeah.
And I love, and I know you love this character too, but I love that we're getting more stories on Mon Mothma.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Mon
And a
Mothma.
side note before you get into this, because I know this will be the only time I get to say it because there's so many cool things to talk about her. I want that woman's apartment, okay?
Yes, yes. Okay, so Mon Mothma. I can talk about this woman. Like I could do a whole TED talk on this woman. Um, so I was like, when they said they were going to have her in Andor, I was like, oh, okay, like that's a cool way to tie into the original. I was not expecting her to be such a powerhouse. Like I knew she was there to help form the rebellion from
Right.
reading the Queen's books about
Mm-hmm.
Padme,
Yeah.
but seeing her then with a child, a teenager in the in Andor, it was
Yeah.
so refreshing to see this kind of like work life mom balance being shown on the screen in Star Wars, because we don't see that in Star Wars. We have literally never seen that on the screen. So as somebody who does work a like kind of almost high stress full-time job with raising a preteen, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so great to see this on the screen. But not only that, a lot of times we see in media the woman's like character is solely like she's a mom, but also does work. Where in this aspect, it was almost reversed. She
Mm-hmm.
wasn't defined by being a mother. She was defined
Right.
by being a politician, and she was also a mother. And she had these two
Yeah.
lives that coincide like equally with each other. It wasn't,
Right.
oh,
Like
well,
one was
yeah.
more important than the other.
And it was so refreshing to see that, because I am a very, very big, like, I think everybody should be successful, however that may be for you, but do not
Yeah.
be afraid to put your career first. And I, because I went to school and I did that, like it definitely resonated, and I loved seeing it. And the just seeing her handle it and some of the struggles, I'm like, yes, I get it. Like I understand it. And to see her like persevere and keep moving forward, and realizing, especially at having like a preteen or a teenager, that you're not going to win every battle. So seeing that being portrayed with a kid and trying to keep your cool. Luckily, I have a very supportive, like loving husband, unlike her. But like,
Oh,
I
that
do.
guy.
constantly trying to sabotage her. Like, he was really good friends with people who were high up with Palpatine and like his personal advisors, and he'd be bringing her over, and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, why is he being like this? And but yeah, I love Mom. I cannot wait to see her in season 2 of Andor. Just I'm super excited. And then even like, so have you read Princess and a Scoundrel?
I haven't. I have not read it yet.
Okay.
But it's going to be
She's
probably read next week because I have a list of books that are
it's
for next week, and yes,
okay.
I
Mhm.
have some time away, and so I'm going to be reading books.
But it's really good. It focuses on Leia and Han, but they also
Yeah.
have Mon in there, and then it shows Mon like taking over and kind of having to step up and reestablish this new galactic republic that is coming about. And just seeing her just go into this whole like, I need to get things done. Here's A, B, and C. Like, so it was just like, oh my gosh. And the book was written before Andor, so we don't hear anything about the daughter. So I was like, man, I need to know more. What happens? Like, but
Yes.
it's just so refreshing to see that representation, and
It
representation
is.
matters for situations like that, because then you can, people get lost in stories, people get lost in movies, in books, in comics. It's a way to escape your reality and go into a world where you would feel at home and feel at peace
Yeah.
and just can escape. And seeing those characters where you can escape to is just, it's hopeful. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
they can survive. They can make it. I can make it. And so
Yes.
it's
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Like I've always loved Leia and Padme, but I didn't seem, and I'm sorry for people, like, I know I'm repeating myself, and I can't probably go an episode without bringing up Ahsoka, but, like, I didn't necessarily see myself 100%, I think, in a character until Ahsoka, because I've always been the kind helper, peacemaker person that's
yeah,
been taken advantage of in, like, friendships, that has, um, put herself aside for, to help someone else get to where they need to be, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't regret that at all. But normally those people aren't always portrayed in the best way. Like, normally they're portrayed as dumb or really
or weak.
naive
Yeah.
or weak. Yeah. And so to see Ahsoka, who had such a big heart too, and cares like so deeply, um also be so strong, and also talk about how like different things don't, like a sword doesn't make you strong, and different things like that. And I mean, I kind of, this sounds cheesy, but like I'm very small. I'm 5'1",
Oh,
and people always think that I'm younger than I am. Always. So I'm not taken seriously very quickly from the beginning when I meet people. And so I always loved when, and this is going to make you laugh because it's Yoda, but I always loved when Yoda would always say, like, size matters not. Like, that really resonated with me as a
yeah.
person because I don't physically take up a lot of space. And so I've always struggled with, okay, well, then how do I take up space? Like, I don't want to be mean in order to get attention. I have a softer voice. I'm not very loud. Except if you mess with somebody that I care about, then that's a big thing.
No.
I get that. And I think it is important, especially as women. I think I'm just trying to validate what you're saying, that like it is so important to see different types of women being portrayed
Oh,
on screen. So some people, and sometimes it ends up being guys, will be like, oh, well, you had a woman in this. It's like, yeah, but we're very complex creatures. Like, just having one and it being a certain way doesn't describe all of womanhood,
and like,
you know?
and that's the thing. There's so many different things that women can do, and like, and that was like, and one of the reasons why I like Mom was because she could have both aspects. She was the mother. She did work, and not
Yeah.
only did she work, she was a political powerhouse, and she
Yeah.
was making changes, and so, and it's so refreshing. And there's so many more, or as characters are being like created for Star Wars now, they are becoming more complex. Another one that I like to talk about is Qi'ra. We see her in the
Mm-hmm.
Solo movie, but in her books and in the comics, like people don't realize she is always looking out for others. Fun fact, she actually fought Darth Vader. Like her whole goal once she took over Crimson Dawn was to take down Palpatine because she wanted the galaxy to be a better place for everybody. And so
Yeah.
seeing characters like that, it's so inspiring. And it's just so nice to see that because I want to make this world a better place for my kid and for my friends and the future generations. And seeing happen in stories, it inspires people to do it in real life. And so it's just, I
Yeah.
love my boy characters too. Like
Yeah,
nothing.
same,
I
same. I
just
don't mean it in any negative way, but it's like you can't
well,
just slap a female character in there and be like, okay, we've got it covered. Like, just
yeah.
like guys have different interests and different
Mm-hmm.
personalities. And I'm sure some guys felt that way when every character was this like super strong, tough, didn't cry, didn't have emotions.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a better job that showing that that's not always the case
And they
too. There's
and they can be vulnerable too. And yeah, so
yeah,
it's nice that they're creating more real well-rounded characters for men as well. And it is literally across the board.
I think that having different characters and different emotions being portrayed and them being well-rounded is like really important. And sometimes I think that people miss that in like the
Mm-hmm.
prequels, that some of those characters were, I think, a little bit more complex than it seemed, because people were
Yeah.
so like paying attention to, in their mind, what they thought was good or not good about
Yeah.
acting or different things. And I'm like, now that we're in this place that we are, I think there was more reasons behind that. And I do think Lucas was ahead of his time with a lot of things. And
I think so too.
yeah, and it's like we look back on it now and we're like, no, like they talk about like how Anakin was so awkward or like couldn't flirt with people. And I'm like, have you never met a guy at that age?
It makes sense. He was a teenager, like going through war and having to lead people that he's never had to do, and you want him to be Mr. Suave? Like that's not gonna happen.
No, I guarantee you I've heard worse. Like especially at that age, like it's not, and maybe it's just that like so many romance stories, how they're written, it's written like how you want it to be in your mind,
Yeah,
right? It's like
yeah,
the perfect phrases, like there is the perfect chemistry, things are said right, everything's just kind of like this beautiful poetry of like lovey-doveyness or whatever. And it's just, that's not necessarily how it is in the real world. It's awkward. And like when you're a
very
teenager,
awkward.
especially, it's awkward and you say stupid things and you're embarrassed and you think you're cool when you're not. Like, let's be real. That
100%.
was probably more like, even though, you can say maybe Lucas wasn't the best at writing romance, but that's kind of how it is in real life. And
And
people
they
still
had to
end up
hide it.
together.
They had to hide it from everybody.
Yeah.
So of course they're not going home every night to each other. Like they would spend weeks or months apart away from each other. So like
Right.
of course it's gonna be awkward. I don't know, I love it.
I do too. Oh, no. I've been
Awkward with
like,
me.
I know. I've been like, I have loved Anakin since the beginning. And I got so made fun of when I was younger. And even as I got a little bit older, and I don't feel like it was until the last like few years that people are coming out. They're like, oh no, we love Anakin too. I'm like, listen, no one loves Anakin like a girl that was a teenager when the
Yes.
prequels came out.
Yes.
Talk about Anakin defenders. Maybe ignoring some red flags there, but it is what it is.
It's all right. I'll have
Yes.
our moments.
Right. I love it. And I am so excited for The Phantom Menace to come back out in theaters, and I don't live anywhere close enough that's gonna do the like the all day back to
Yeah.
back marathon. But I'm so excited to get to see that movie in theaters
I'm
again.
I'm super pumped. We're actually doing an event with one of our like local like indie like movie theaters. They're
Oh,
gonna
I love
have
that.
yeah, they're gonna be playing it that Friday night, but we're gonna be there with the podcast doing giveaways and costume contests with it, and I'm super excited. And a
That's
bunch of our
awesome.
friends are gonna be there in costumes. We're like, yeah.
Ah,
And
I
then
love it.
I can't I haven't decided yet if I want to take my Jar Jar Binks backpack or my Darth Maul backpack. We'll have to see how I feel the day of.
That is a hard question.
It's a very hard question. I don't know. I might just bring them both and just
Maybe.
change between the two. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
that is hard. I mean, how can you pick between two awesome characters, Jar Jar and
they're
Darth
awesome,
Maul? I
but
mean,
these backpacks are like massive, plush. Like you got Jar Jar's ears flying all over the place. It is a statement piece. Like
um,
cannot wait.
if I had to pick, and I'm a horrible person at making decisions and picking, I think I would have to vote Jar Jar because I
I'm
bet you're
probably
gonna
gonna do
see
Jar
a
Jar.
lot of Darth Maul stuff, and Jar Jar needs his time
He
to
needs
shine
his love.
too.
Yes, he does. 100%. I have a growing collection of Jar Jar Binks that I
I love
display
it.
proudly in our house. People are like,
I
"Can we
love
get
that
all the
people are
characters?" I'm
going
like,
and finding
"Yes,
the watches. Like,
yes,
that makes
yes."
me so happy. And everyone's like, I've got this Jar Jar watch. I loved Jar Jar Binks. Like, I know that, like, it didn't, like, adults at the time, like, hated Jar Jar, but it was for us, okay?
It
That
was
was
for
for
the
us.
kids. It was 100% for the kids. That's like one of my son's favorite characters too. Like of all the things Star Wars, he's like, "Yeah, I like Jar Jar." And Poe, I guess. Oh, maybe Ezra, but that's it. Nobody else. Just those three. Jar Jar, Poe,
Yes.
Ezra. Like
I mean, solid choices, honestly.
I'm
Oh,
like,
I
it
love it.
works.
Well, kind of getting into what you are hoping that people kind of take out of this. What are some of the things from like your story and your Star Wars journey and your podcast and just all of the aspects do you hope that people get out of this conversation today?
I um I really want people to get that there is something in Star Wars for everybody. There is literally a story for you to connect with. It is a very welcoming community. There may be some people that are loud and just kind of mean, but
Mhm.
that's just the minority. Like, I love being supported by friends 24/7. I talk to them all day long. They're always there. We're not, and we don't just talk Star Wars, we talk life. And it is a
Yeah.
great way to bond with people and create life last, lifelong lasting friendships. I couldn't get the
Yeah.
words there. But like everybody has a voice too in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love the community and I love what it represents and I love just everything.
So I know you love Banthas, obviously, because of your podcast.
Yes.
So I think I know what my fun question for you is going to be.
All right, let's hear it.
So if you had a Bantha, what would your Bantha's name be?
Well, okay, so our podcast, we do have a Bantha mascot. Her name is Bonnie,
Okay.
and I would love to have Bonnie the Bantha. Um, but I think Bonnie would have sisters,
Oh, okay.
and so we can have Bonnie and Bertha, and let's see,
I
Bonnie,
love it.
Bertha, and I feel like she'd have another sister, Bella.
Oh, that's a good
Bonnie,
one
Bella,
too.
and Bertha.
All right, I love it.
Yes,
It's a traveling pack of banthas with
it's their own little
Mandalorian.
herd.
Yeah,
And we'd have to have our Jawa just because my co-hosts they dress up as a Jawa, so we'd have the Jawa and then the
I
Mando
love it.
riding in our herd of banthas and across Tatooine
Oh,
and with their
yes, I'm
long.
here for it. That's amazing. I love it so much. And
Yeah.
I had so much fun talking to you about your Star Wars journey and all the things that you love about this crazy fandom that we're a part
It's so
of.
fun.
And
Like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I
yes,
love talking Star Wars, and it's so
I do
nice.
too.
Just chatting.
I love it. And I just want to say, from the little girl inside of me, thank you for doing what you do, because I think that is so important. And it's so important that you're going out and you're looking for the next generation and the next people that you can inspire to be themselves too, and to
Yeah.
create and to be expressive and to love who they are. And so, yeah, thank you for that. Like,
Oh,
it's incredible, and I'm sure you've touched so many lives
it's
with what you're doing.
it's a great way to give back, and it's just I do it because I want them to realize that they can embrace this fandom as well, and they can feel comfortable in their own skin in
Yeah.
this fandom too. And it's not just for boys; it is for everybody.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I had a lot of fun too.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast, and it's been so nice hearing all these stories that you've been sharing all over like social media with talking
Oh,
about
thank
people. It's
you.
just like Star Wars fans are great. Like,
Yes, we
have
are.
fun
We're
conversations.
great. And I'll make sure to link all of your stuff below too, and all the episode notes and that sort of thing. So if people want to check out your podcast, they can, and follow you on social media and all of those things, they can do it. So
Thank you.
thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for joining me today on Tales of the Force. Our stories of hope is the force of this fandom, and they are a powerful ally to each and every one of us. Life creates them, makes them grow. Their energy surrounds us and binds us together. Don't forget, luminous beings we all are, not this crude matter. May the Force be with you always.